I'm going to introduce Senator Lovely and allow you to take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Salem Democrats. I'm so pleased to be here tonight to just kind of go over quickly what I've been doing in the Senate and respectfully ask for your support for re-election. I want to quickly say, I don't know if my opponent, Kyle Davis, is on, but I want to tell you it's been a very respectful race, raised just on the issues, but no personality. I want to say thank him. I want to thank him for that. Running for office is not an easy task. We get out there and we put our issues out, we talk to voters, and we tell them where we are on positions, and then the voters decide. So thank you to my opponent. I want to say thank you to the two candidates who are on tonight as well. Again, not easy to run, and everybody who's in running for office, whether re-election or first election, wish you all the best as you again engage with voters. Just quickly, I wanted to give you just a little background for some folks who don't know my background. I'm a Beverly girl, grew up in Beverly, met a Salem boy a long time ago, got married. We've raised our children here in Salem, and I am a proud grandmother of a 20-month-old granddaughter. I got my start in politics by building a playground in my neighborhood. It was the same equipment that my husband played on as a young boy. It was that one hot metal slide and those two old rubber swings. And I went to the city and talked to then Mayor Neil Harrington and our city councilor, our Ward 3 councilor. And we put together a playground committee. And over the course of a year, we planned it. We found out how to fund it. And over a weekend, 100 volunteers, and we built a beautiful playground. And it's just been a jewel for our neighborhood ever since. Lots of families use it. And so, and my granddaughter plays on it now. I will tell you, it has been rebuilt since then, because that was 30 years ago that we did that effort. And that was such a positive experience for me, public service, that I wanted to do more. So I asked the mayor if I could sit on the Neighborhood Improvement Advisory Committee that still exists today, to help other people with their neighborhoods. I did that for a few years, did some other volunteer efforts, and then a city council seat became available, Ward 3, in 1998 was when I took office. I ran for that seat and I won that seat. And I held that seat for 6 years, then went on to at-large for 9 years. So 15 total years on the city council here in Salem. I couldn't be more proud of that work. I really think that gave me a foundation to go up to state government and work for you at that time. I will tell you, all the time that I was doing that, I was a working mother selling real estate nights and weekends. I was raising a family with my husband. I wanted to finish my undergraduate degree. I had my my associate's degree, but I wanted to get that bachelor's degree. So I threw myself back in school doing all of that in 2000. And in 2006, nights and weekends, I graduated with my degree in political science. My approach and my thoughts had changed. That associate's degree was in large animal science, so very different. And then I went to law school. And I went to law school full time and passed the bar the first time, thankfully. And then the Senate seat became available. I did practice law for a few years in the family court. And then this seat became available. I ran for the seat, and I have had the honor to be in this seat since 2013. Let me quickly go over assignments that I have this session. I have worked very hard to move up into leadership. I am an assistant majority leader in the Senate, where this allows me to work very closely with the president and her leadership team on what we advance to the floor in terms of policy bills and budget. I also have the good fortune to chair the Senate and Joint Committees on Rules. If you're a money bill, you go to Senate Ways and Means. If you're a policy bill, you come to Rules. So we've been very busy this session, moving a lot of bills through the Senate and to the floor, to the House. I am the vice chair of bills in third reading. Again, another committee that reviews bills and makes sure that they're properly drawn and ready to go to the floor. And I'm a member of the Joint Committee on Housing. I have a housing background as a real estate agent for, most of bringing up my children. And a member of the Global Warming and Climate Change Committee. I'm really happy that I got on this committee this year and be able to do this work. We did two really great climate bills that I will touch on. Also a member of the Senate Committee on Reimagining Massachusetts Post-Pandemic Resiliency. We did 5 statewide hearings virtually in the middle of COVID to make sure that we were listening and hearing from our constituents across the Commonwealth, to make sure that we were responding, and we focused on childcare, education, and higher ed here, right here in the district, but we crisscrossed every policy area. And we have responded, and we did put out a report, and we have enacted a lot of that in that report into our policy these last 2 sessions. I have a very good fortune to be the Senate chair of the Mass Caucus of Women Legislators. That was a caucus created in 1975 to address the Equal Rights Amendment. We reached the highest number of women this session at 63 members. And of the 384 years of the legislature, there have been 20,000 men elected to 221 women. I am number 185. So we have some work to do. And I have the good fortune to chair this caucus with House Chair Rep. Pat Haddad from Somerset. And our priorities this session are COVID-19's impact on women, health access and racial disparities, and empowering women in government. We are supporting a bill that would allow campaign funds to be used for childcare. This allows many more people to be able to run for office who otherwise would not be able to afford childcare. So we're trying to get that across the finish line as well. And I have the great fortune again to be the Senate chair of the Ellen Story Commission on PPD, postpartum depression, which is the #1 complication in pregnancy. We could spend a whole evening on that, but it is a great commission that I also am proud to sit on. So the last 2 sessions really were combined in almost one session because we did not break between these 2 sessions responding to COVID. So I'm going to go over some things that we did and overlapped in both sessions. We did police reform, where we put in post training, peace officer standard training, which is really, most of the country uses this training state to state, and Massachusetts, we didn't have that. So that gives us a standard training for all police officers across the Commonwealth, keeps our citizens safe, our officers safe, and good working police departments. We did the Student Opportunity Act, where we are infusing an additional $1.7 billion over 7 years into our education system. We certainly could do more, and we want to do more. This was a commitment, but we're going to continue to do that because education is the starter. If you get a good education, you are going to do well. And so we want to make sure every student, especially our students of color, have that opportunity. During COVID, we had to also infuse dollars into school buildings to improve air quality in our schools because we realized that we have a lot of old school buildings. We wanted to make sure that we were making sure that our students are safe. We're doing additional programs focused on recruiting and retaining educators of color. Right here in Salem, more than 50% of our school population are students of color, but less than 10% are educators of color. And it's important that your educator, that you be able to relate with your educator in your same race and ethnicity. So we have more work to do there, and we are addressing that. We did genocide education because we saw that our middle and high schoolers were not being taught about our past and present genocides. It's critical for our youth to know about these atrocities that are happening even today. Breakfast after the bell. Every student in Massachusetts will get breakfast in the morning when they go to school, regardless of your social economic background. It's an equalizer, and it's just so very, very important. We did the economic development bill last session that changed our supermajority from a 2/3 supermajority to simple majority for our zoning changes. So very important. Creates ADUs and other opportunities, transit-oriented housing to make sure that we are addressing our housing crisis. We are in a housing crisis. And also in that ECDEV bill, we've got $25 million to design and construct the South Salem commuter rail station. So we're actively working to get that rail station constructed and up and moving. That'll be a game changer for both Salem State University and for our hospital. For be able to transport people, patients, students, etc. We did Nikki's Law this session, which I think is really an excellent law that we did. And this creates a registry of substantiated claims of abuse and neglect against a disabled person. So that worker who was working with that disabled person and has abused and or neglected them cannot work in the disability space again. This is such a vulnerable population, very special to me. And so we want to make sure that we are protecting our vulnerable populations. We did step therapy this session just a few weeks ago so that patients don't have to start out with lower medications at the direction of the insurance companies. We took that power away from insurance companies. We want prescribers to be able to prescribe the correct meds from the beginning and not experiment and step up to the right medications. So again, really important. And we also did the PACT Act, which is, it prioritizes diabetes medication, insulin, to make sure that people aren't paying exorbitant amounts monthly for their insulin. It is absolutely necessary for life care and healthcare. Menstrual equity, we did this session tool to make sure our schools and shelters and houses of corrections and prisons have free menstrual products. And we also did the Crown Act in the Senate, which prohibits discrimination based on natural hairstyles and protective hairstyles. You can't discriminate against somebody for the way that they want to wear their hair. They need to wear their hair. We've seen too many instances where hair was cut off on a basketball court. No, illegal, not going to allow that. So I wanted to touch quickly on some of my legislative priorities that I continue to work on, and that's child sexual abuse prevention legislation. I am a child sexual abuse survivor at the age of 6. A maternal uncle who came to live with us and abused myself and a couple of my siblings. And I've taken a lead on this in the Senate, and also have taken a lead on the sexual harassment in the Senate. We experienced a sexual harassment by someone not a member or a legislator or a staffer, but someone who came into the Senate. And I was the lead on the commission for rewriting our sexual harassment rules. We worked closely side by side. We had staff on that commission, members, experts. We did focus groups, interviews, extensive feedback with staff to address fear and intimidation. And as a result of that, we wrote a lot of those protections into our rules, and we hired a DEI, a diversity, equity, and inclusion person into our human resources staff to engage with staff and members to support inclusive, respectful environment so people feel safe, respected within their workplace. We did a lot in the budget. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things that I'm really proud of. I get $800,000 a year for the Homeworks program. When I first got into the Senate is when we were housing children and families in motels across the Commonwealth. It was terrible. It was necessary because they needed a roof over their head. But I'll tell you, I visited many of these motels in my district, and I saw children laying in oil-stained parking lots, drawing chalk rings around their bodies so they could see in oil-stained parking lots. I came back, I worked with the YMCA, we wrote this program, and what this does is it allows our young students and to be able to stay at school for after school programs and sports programs, because it was a transportation issue. They had to take the bus back to the shelter or the motel right after school. They left their peers, they fell behind. Now they don't have to do that. They make sure that they can stay and enjoy and thrive with all of their peers. And so we did that. I get $50,000 for Leap for Education. That's the program right here in Salem that prepares high school students to go on to college, and then tracks college students to make sure that they're meeting their goals and their needs. It's just a game changer. Wanted to quickly talk about climate change. We did 2 really great bills this session. The Next Generation Roadmap for Climate Policy, that sets our net zero limit on greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. It codified our environmental justice provisions into law. It's improving gas pipeline safety. As we know, we have leaking gas pipelines, so it continues to make sure that we are addressing those needs, and it addresses carbon sequestration. Salem, a gateway city, and it has a greening program where you can have a tree planted in your yard, and this program will come and do that for you, and that will help with carbon sequestration and additional solar incentives for businesses. We also did the Drive Act. This is for more offshore wind supports. We're going to have an offshore wind marshaling facility right here in Salem at the power plant. It's very exciting. And we're putting those supports into place right now. That port has to be built out. These offshore wind components are very heavy. And so that ground is not prepared yet for that, but it will be because we are working with offshore wind operators and port operators to make sure that that's going to happen. And also more electric vehicle opportunities and rebates. We've increased. We know that electric vehicles are still a reach. They're a reach for me. I don't have one and I would like one. And so that we're going to have more rebates in these opportunities to be able to allow everybody to purchase an electric vehicle. That's where we're heading. I want to talk really quickly just about a couple of animal bills that we've done. We did hen welfare legislation, and this is so that hens are cage free, and they are in a vertical house, if you will, hen house. I have a hen house. I have a couple of hens outside. They're quite cage free, but this is better for our hens and for the hen welfare. We did the beagle bill, which saves cats and dogs from euthanization after they are used for testing in labs after that is complete. We want to make sure that dogs and cats are available for adoption after that, and they won't be euthanized. We did Nero's Law, which ensures that canines receive life-saving medical attention transport. If you remember Nero, that was Sergeant Sean Gannon from Yarmouth, his dog. And Sergeant Gannon was killed in the line of duty, and Nero was shot. They thought that he was not going to live. And the ambulance at the scene could not transport Nero to the closest veterinary facility because he's an animal. We changed that. If you are a canine in the line of duty and you are injured, you're going to be, that animal is going to be transported to the closest veterinary hospital. Nero did live. Thankfully, but we lost Sergeant Gannon tragically. We did voting reform. As you know, people are voting right now, permanent mail-in voting to make sure that people get their applications. They can send them back to get their ballots. I've heard from a lot of people that are voting right now. And early voting in person. I'm a big fan of doing same-day registration. We will continue to work towards that to make sure that people have every single opportunity to be able to vote, even if it's the same day that they register. In the ARPA plan, we did almost $3 billion in ARPA spending, and another almost $1.5 billion in surplus funds. And one program that I'm really proud of is we did $2.7 million to establish a community college hunger pilot program to address food insecurity across our college campuses, our state colleges and our community colleges. We heard from a lot of college presidents and counselors who said that students were making the choice between eating and buying books and just getting to campus. This was a bill that I filed on the Senate side, and we were able to fund that. So really proud of that. We did homeless IDs on the Senate side, where, you know, if you don't have an address, you may not be able to get an identification card. We wanted to make sure that you could, no matter, you don't have to have an address. You can say who you are. This was very important to many, especially our homeless youth. And we expanded access to adoption, which allows older relatives to adopt their younger siblings, aunts and uncles. We've seen COVID has changed families, so they've lost parents, and who is caring for these younger siblings and their aunts and uncles. And so this allows that as well. We did 2 Black History holidays, very proud of. Negro Election Day right here in Salem. The 3rd day in July is Negro Election Day. Worked very closely with Doreen Wade and Salem United. And Quack Walker Day. Quack Walker was a Black slave enslaved here in Massachusetts, sued for his freedom. It went up to the SJC, Supreme Judicial Court, and he won. So we honored his day as well. Women's Rights History Trail. That was signed by the governor just a couple of weeks ago, but he's doing a ceremonial signing in Worcester that I will be attending. Again, this is my bill on the Senate side. Almost done. We did sports betting. So that is in-person licenses at casinos, tracks, simulcast facilities, and then mobile licenses for mobile digital platforms. That revenue, 15% for in-tax betting and 20% for mobile betting, will be allocated to a workforce investment trust fund, youth development fund, a gaming aid fund, public health trust fund, and then the remainder of less than 50% will go into the general fund. And we want to make sure that, especially for gambling issues, to make sure that those are adequate as well, so people can have access to sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second, to gambling treatment opportunities. We did reproductive rights. I couldn't be more proud of the Roe bill we did last session. We saw the writing on the wall. I'm going to give a ton of credit to my colleague from Worcester, Senator Harriet Chandler. She is our president emerita. She's retiring after 30 years in the Senate this year at 84 years old. Remarkable, such a mentor, such a leader. She led this bill. So we have certified our reproductive and gender affirming rights here in Massachusetts. And for those who are seeking care from other states, Texas had put a law in place that would criminalize any Texan that would be coming up here to receive rights, and our providers. We said, no, you can't infiltrate into our courts. And so we passed that legislation to make sure that that didn't happen. And the last bill, we did the Mental Health ABC Act that was signed by the governor today, ABC Addressing Barriers to Care, where we are guaranteeing an annual mental health wellness exam, mandating coverage. You go yearly for a physical health wellness exam, adding the mental health wellness as well, addressing emergency department boarding, and a number of, this was a really enormous bill that we looking at increasing access to care in geographically isolated areas, school-based behavioral health services and programming, access for our youth, especially for behavioral health treatment. We've seen COVID has really affected everybody, every age group, and we want to make sure that we are addressing that. I think I've covered what I wanted to cover. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I'm happy to answer that one question, Chris, and so that we can hear from the other speakers. I will tell you that I have another meeting happening, a Zoom meeting in Beverly for the Varian site. As you know, that's a highly contaminated site, so I may pop off and pop into that. It's also started at 7, but I'll come back. And thank you, everyone. I respectfully ask for your support and for your vote on September 6th. Thank you so much.